Yo, what's going on, guys? And we are back here with the latest NBA news. We've been doing this series for the past 2 weeks where I do a 10 to 15 minute video compiling all the news of the week. We'll probably have another one tomorrow just because the NBA trade deadline is in less than a month. We'll probably be having Thursdays and Fridays be the compilation of all the news. There are time markers, timestamps, you would call them, for all the rumors if you want to just skip ahead, and they will be edited into their own individual videos with the other reporting we've done so far. So let's get right in today's video. Let me hear your thoughts down below on any rumors we talked about, and if there was any disagreement, tell me. So let's get right into it. Thank you. Like and subscribe, comment. So first one we're doing is the Lakers. The Lakers are supposedly still monitoring the trade market, as they don't want to make a move, but they do believe that they could be forced to make a move for a player that could be a suitable third option or second option, whatever you want to call it, next to Anthony Davis and LeBron James, who have been relatively healthy the entire year, as well as the entire team has been really healthy. So for them, the Los Angeles Lakers have continued to tell teams that they've discussed exploratory trade talks with, that Austin Reaves, sources say, is someone that they do not want to part ways with. There does seem to be a pathway for Dejounte Murray to a Los Angeles deal. I personally believe it's going to be Rui Hachimura with Gabe Vincent and maybe Max Christie or Jalen Hood-Schifino, or both of them. Some sort of combination of those four players. Not all four of them, maybe three of them, maybe two of them. We will see. The biggest thing for the Hawks is that they're cheap and they want draft assets because they gave up too much for Murray to begin with. Now, the Lakers could be willing to include Reaves in a deal for Dejounte Murray, although that would require the Hawks having to send back more value to Los Angeles for compensation. Okay, so basically, if Reaves is traded to, per se, the Hawks, they would want probably young guys like AJ Griffin, Kobe Buffkin, or maybe they want Patty Mills or somebody. Patty Mills hasn't really played, so I don't know how much value you would give them, but you get what I'm saying there. So the Hawks are a team that likes to stay below the luxury tax. And around the league, D'Angelo Russell's $17 million salary is not viewed as a valuable trade asset. It's a neutral, maybe even a negative asset. So it's really just looking at salary filler. And that's why I believe maybe a Rui Hachimura, Gabe Vincent deal would be more likely. So just keep an eye on this. The Lakers will do whatever they can not to trade Austin Reaves. But if they do trade him, it's because they're getting compensation back that they believe is going to help them in the long run. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Rest of this will be reporting on other Lakers news. So this one's kind of a double whammy we're getting from Chris Fedor of, I believe it is, the Cleveland Plain Dealer. And Chris Fedor is saying that the Cavaliers are not only interested in Dorian Finney-Smith, but additionally they are interested in our man, Mr. PJ Washington. PJ Washington is currently signed long-term with the Hornets, and here, so Dorian Finney-Smith and PJ Washington are two guys. PJ Washington's in the first year of a extension that most people would say is a pretty, I think, reasonable extension, while Dorian Finney-Smith signed a 4-year, $55 million extension back in, I believe it goes till 26. Yeah, it expires out, and he'll be a free agent in the summer of 26. Dorian Finney-Smith, so you would have him under roster control for one more season in the final year as a player option, which he probably would pick up because of the amount of money. He'd be making 15.3 for Dorian Finney-Smith. While PJ Washington's younger, PJ Washington's contract is 4 years, 46, 3 years, and you'd have him under control for 2 more years. And that's really not that bad of a deal. So for me, when I look at this situation, as we go back to Dorian, we'll talk about Dorian Finney-Smith and then we'll talk about PJ Washington. But with Dorian Finney-Smith, who I am a very big fan, he was playing center for the Nets at times. Okay, he's a very versatile guy. He's a guy that Chris Fedor says is somebody that the Cavaliers have interest. He's somebody who can play the 3, the 4, and even the small ball 5. He can shoot and space the floor for them if they need it. And the thing with Dorian Finney-Smith is I've always been a fan of his. And this season, I mean, at one point he was averaging 15 points a game, guys. It was pretty crazy. But on the season so far, Dorian Finney-Smith for the Cleveland Cavaliers is averaging 28.8. I mean, my apology. The Brooklyn Nets is averaging 28.8 minutes a night, 10 points, 43% from the field, 40% from 3, 5 rebounds, an assist and a half. And how would we get there? Because what you're getting in Dorian Finney-Smith is a multi-positional defender, a guy who's going to guard the opposing stars. He's going to make a wings. He has this giant wingspan to allow him to protect the rim, and he's a great catch and shoot guy. But it's the salaries that you get scared of, okay? And would you want to go for a guy who's 30 years old, or do you want to go for the guy who's still in his 20s? That's another decision you have to make when you're looking at Dorian Finney-Smith. And if you're the Cavaliers, what is the deal you're going to have to make, because you're going to have to match the salaries? So the easiest way for them to do this deal is either trading Karis LeVert. I'm assuming that you wouldn't trade Max Strus. And so you either trade Karis LeVert or Jared Allen, which I don't think they would want to do. The next easiest way to do this deal would probably be packaging Dean Wade. It's hard. Dean Wade and Isaac Okoro, and then that might be a way you can do this deal. Now let's talk about PJ Washington. And I personally think if they're trying to win right now, I think Dorian Finney-Smith is probably the better option. But I think the long-term play, the guy who has more potential to be part of this core and really could turn into a bargain deal, I think is, because I think PJ Washington will cost the same as Dorian Finney-Smith. Dorian Finney-Smith might be a little bit cheaper, but you're getting a guy in PJ Washington that, in my opinion, he's a combo forward. He's perfect for the modern day. He can be an oversized 3. He can be a perfectly sized 4, or he can even be a small ball 5. He's really strong, stout, solid catch and shoot guy. 6'7", 6'8", with 225 pounds on that frame, with a 7'2" wingspan. Great screener, underrated brick wall. He can finish around the rim, draw fouls. When he tries, he does give a great effort on defense. And on offense, he has this weird Rudy Gay type post game, old school, drop step type shot. And this season, he's a guy who's averaging 13 points, which is down, but it's the second most of his career. He is shooting 43% from the field and 32% from 3, 5 rebounds and 2.5 assists a night. And he's a guy that if they were going to go out and get him, again, contract wise, he's similarly making as Dorian Finney-Smith this year. He's making specifically 16.8. So the Dorian Finney-Smith, Dean Wade, and Ty Jerome or somebody would have to be packaged there to make that deal. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this Cavaliers one. So we're talking about Dejounte Murray a lot this week. We knew the Knicks and Lakers were already interested in him, with the Lakers being the Clutch Sports connection with LeBron James. The Knicks, though, unlikely, because the agency that Leon Rose used to work with, CAA, is the rival of Clutch Sports. But if Dejounte Murray forces the hand, they will work with that deal. There's also a dark horse of the Spurs. We're hearing that the Miami Heat, Pistons, and Sixers are all interested in Dejounte Murray. And exactly what we're hearing right now is the first report we're hearing that from Jake Fisher, that considering the possibility that Zach LaVine, whom the Chicago Bulls have tried to move this summer, is not getting much trade interest, it seems like the most likely person to be traded is Dejounte Murray, who's going to probably be traded. The Hawks are cheap. They tried to regain the draft assets they gave up when they overpaid for him. And the Hawks appeared to be determined to trade Dejounte Murray by the deadline, and he's been discussed in already several trade scenarios amongst teams. The Lakers, the Knicks, the Sixers, the Heat, Detroit. We've heard that the Lakers might be willing to give up Austin Reaves as if the Hawks give up more assets. So I personally think a Lakers deal will be Rui Hachimura, Gabe Vincent, Max Christie, or Jalen Hood-Schifino with a pick or no pick. While another deal, if Austin Reaves is in there, maybe like DeAndre Hunter and other players in there from there. The Knicks would probably do a Quentin Grimes, Evan Fournier, and picks, maybe Jericho Sims in there. The Sixers would probably do a deal around, my assumption is, this is where it gets a little, I think the Hawks would want Tobias Harris, but the Sixers would probably offer either a combination of Marcus Morris and or Robert Covington, Nick Batum with picks. I don't know. While a deal from the Heat could be picks with Kyle Lowry and a young guy like Nikola Jovic, while the Detroit Pistons could send Joe Harris, Kelly Hayes, maybe even Jaden Ivey, something like that in a deal. And I said the San Antonio Spurs, they have a bunch of guys like Devontae Graham, Zach Collins, Doug McDermott, Jetty Osman, Keldon Johnson, Malachi Brown, and Blake Wesley, combination of salary cap fillers and young players that could interest the Hawks. And we've heard that the Brooklyn Nets do not appear to be actively pursuing him, but the problem with the Spurs is that they don't have any players that the Atlanta Hawks would be believed to be looking in, so the Spurs and Nets have been ruled out. I personally believe the Lakers, because of the Clutch Sports connection, is the most likely. The Heat could be the ones that go after him because the deal he signed, 4 years, $114 million extension last offseason, which begins next year, is considered a really good value contract with the new second apron tax environment coming into play next season. So let me hear your thoughts on that one, guys. Must be rough if you're a Warriors fan, guys. I'm sorry, but we're hearing specifically that the Golden State Warriors have made everybody except Stephen Curry available for trade. The Warriors are willing to consider any player in a trade scenario except for Stephen Curry, according to Shams Charania of The Athletic. This comes as they're losing games. The Golden State Warriors have difficult decisions to make heading into the trade deadline, which is less than a month away. As their season is on the brink of a collapse, their championship window is closing, and they might fall out of the play-in chase this season. With that in mind, the Golden State Warriors front office, led by Mike Dunleavy Jr., has the mindset that everybody on the roster could be available in a trade, with the exception of Steph Curry. Quote, "The mindset in Golden State right now is everyone but Steph Curry is on the table." That's their mindset. Realistically, there's an asterisk. Klay Thompson, would they want to keep him long-term and keep him in Golden State? I think that's been their hope. They've not been able to reach a contract extension with him. And Draymond Green just got re-signed to an extension. They have been their core guys. In the front office, they're big fans of Jonathan Kuminga. They're big fans of Brandon Podezemski. Big fans of Trace Jackson Davis. But Andrew Wiggins and everybody else on that roster except Steph Curry has to be in play for this team. They're looking to make moves. The Warriors, that's what we heard end quote, what we heard Shams Charania say with The Athletic. And the Warriors don't want to take any long-term money back in any trade. Shams Charania also adds that the uncertain status of Steve Kerr, who has not signed an extension, weighs on their decision-making. I think they just need to trade for Pascal Siakam at this point, guys. What do you guys think? I would just go out and trade for Pascal Siakam. I think if they're trying to make a move this season, I think he's the best player you can get right now, in my opinion. We've been reporting on a potential Pascal Siakam trade to the Golden State Warriors over the last couple of days, and we know that the Warriors very much want to keep Jonathan Kuminga, but the Raptors are very keen in getting Kuminga, who's the third leading scorer for the Warriors, just averaging just under, I think last time I checked, like 14 points a game and a few rebounds and assists a game, and also packaging Maple Jordan, Andrew Wiggins in a said deal. Now, the reason for that is because the idea of the Warriors trying to keep the championship window open. Wiggins is a guy who's been struggling this year. He's on a cheap contract. Kuminga, the potential, they don't have to give up much assets. And Pascal Siakam will more than likely agree to a max contract with the Warriors versus other teams. So, and Pascal Siakam is kind of the perfect player to be like. So Draymond Green and Klay Thompson are not superstars anymore. They're not star players anymore. They're good, really good role players, starting level role players at this point, but they need a second star next to Steph Curry and Pascal Siakam. Out of all the players available for trade right now at this trade deadline, is probably the most impactful player for the Golden State Warriors. And and I think that's something that we're hearing, but we're hearing that another team could be the Indiana Pacers. Now, the Indiana Pacers are interested in Andrew Wiggins and Jonathan Kuminga. So, with that being said, if the Pacers are the new team, we've heard the Raptors have been discussing with the Golden State Warriors for Pascal Siakam. What could Andrew Wiggins and Jonathan Kuminga lead to if you're the Warriors? Okay, who could the Warriors want from the Indiana Pacers if they're looking to get a power forward help like Pascal Siakam from the Raptors, and they're already discussing Jonathan Kuminga in a trade with him? So let's talk here, Indiana Pacers. If you're a Pacers fan or Warriors fan, who do you think will be traded in a Jonathan Kuminga, Andrew Wiggins deal to Indiana? So Wiggins and Kuminga put together brings you just to $30 million. It's 30.3, we'll say 30.4, just under. And at 30.4, you hypothetically could bring in multiple players. I'm thinking right here, the dream scenario would be they be going for someone like Miles Turner. I don't think that's happening. I think it's a deal for Bruce Brown and or TJ McConnell, or a deal where you see a guy. I mean, I think they want established players. If it's not Bruce Brown, it has to be if they might want more shooting help. So could it be Buddy Hield, TJ McConnell, and somebody along the lines of, that's where you go down this roster. You're like, I don't think Jalen Smith and Jordan Nwora. So I think the only players of interest for the Golden State Warriors on the Indiana Pacers roster is Bruce Brown, Miles Turner, Buddy Hield, TJ McConnell. And a deal that revolves around Jonathan Kuminga and Mr. Andrew Wiggins is $30 million. And you can only take one of Bruce Brown, Miles Turner, Buddy Hield packaged with TJ McConnell. Only one of those guys could be packaged with TJ. That would be under the $30 million that you could. Now, if they want to bring in, let's say package Chris Paul, Andrew Wiggins, and Jonathan Kuminga, now that brings you to $60 million, and you could hypothetically trade for Bruce Brown, Miles Turner, and Buddy Hield, which would be the most insane trade I've ever seen. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts. What do you guys expect from this situation? So the New York Knicks are showing interest in Daniel Gafford per Jake L. Fisher. There are guys on the market right now like Daniel Gafford, with Mitchell Robinson being injured, who's definitely a dialogue. And if you're the Knicks, you know that, this is a cheap deal. That Daniel Gafford, he's a starting center, but he would be probably the best backup center in the NBA if they were to make him a backup. He's just like an average, maybe an above average starting center. He makes 12.4, which is a little hard to swallow. But the idea is that they do have that deal of Evan Fournier under roster. So Evan Fournier, the thing is they probably want to get another player that they can. Evan Fournier can be under contract for another year, but they definitely want to have be able to continue to have flexible salary. So a deal of Evan Fournier for maybe DeLon Wright and Daniel Gafford, I wouldn't be surprised if, or another deal, I wouldn't be surprised if Daniel Gafford and maybe a Danilo Gallinari for Evan Fournier, and if they throw in just like Malachi Flynn as a salary filler or something like that, would help. Because then if Mitchell Robinson does not come back by the end of the season, or if he does and he's bad, you now have this cool rotation of Isaiah Hardenstein, Jericho Sims, and Daniel Gafford, or Daniel Gafford and Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hardenstein. And the thing is with Daniel Gafford this season, he's a guy who's averaging in 26 minutes, 10.5 points, 7.7 rebounds, and just under 2 assists. Last year, he averaged 9 points, back-to-back years in 22 to 23 and 21 to 22. He averaged 9 points playing 20 minutes a night and 6 rebounds and a block a game. He's averaging 2 blocks a game this year. He's a career 70% field goal shooter. And what you're getting with Daniel Gafford is, a high-energy, athletic big man who's a great rebounder and shot blocker, super efficient shooter. He's only going to shoot 5 feet within the basket, pick and roll big, who's great at finishing above the rim. Besides dunks, like Mitchell Robinson, not much of a scorer. He's not comfortable dribbling or shooting the basketball, and the ball can get stuck in his hand when he catches it. But I think he'd be a good guy for them. It's very similar to Mitchell Robinson. And to wrap up today's talk, we're talking about the Clippers. So, as you guys know, the Clippers have agreed to an extension of 3 years, $152.4 million with Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George is discussing an extension with them. And what we're specifically hearing from Yamisku of ESPN, Kawhi Leonard reportedly took less than his max possible in his extension. That was done in hopes that it paved the way for LA Clippers to keep both Paul George and James Harden. With the conversation that I have with them about it, I think the most important part is everybody's coming back. So with Kawhi Leonard signing his extension, it seems that he believes he'll give them the best chance to sign James Harden and Paul George this upcoming offseason, or before the free agency period. Leonard was telling media after the Clippers beat Toronto on Wednesday. Paul George said that he and the Clippers are working through a possible extension. Ultimately, he says he believes he'll get done, with Leonard's extension setting the table. And James Harden is not extension eligible after his trade from Philadelphia. He'll hit unrestricted free agency, but all signs point for Harden re-signing. Obviously, not as much money as he'd hope. But that's basically it, guys. If you guys have made it this far into the video, it is greatly appreciated. Your thoughts. What do you guys think James Harden's going to get? I think James Harden's going to get like 3 years, $45 million. Maybe 3 years, $60, if he's lucky. But yeah, guys, that was it today. First time I said the word on all video, but If you guys did enjoy that, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Anything that I might have missed, anything I might have faltered. If you guys didn't realize, I started talking about the Raptors instead of the Pacers during that whole Pacers talk. So hopefully I'll remember to edit that out. I probably will, but hey, that's it. Cheers. Cheers to the governor. But if you guys played that game before, it's a great game. Great drinking game. Bye-bye.